man, this was a God thing that God laid on your heart, because that was the whole idea of this whole thing, was to be something beyond the walls of our church.
Right. Well, and you see in the Bible, actually, God created the family before he created the church.
Hey, what's up? Welcome to the podcast. So glad that you joined us wherever you are watching or listening right now. Thanks so much for being here. My name's Cody. I'm the youth pastor here at our church, vbfa.church, and so glad that you're here. I'm joined by two of my best friends. We've got Colby here. He's our kids pastor. What's up, man? How are you?
Hey, man, it's just good to be here.
It's good to be back in the swing of things with this whole podcast thing. Then we also got Seth here. Seth Johnson's joining us, and got some pretty interesting stuff to discuss with you today. So
yeah, man, I'm super excited. Yeah. Honorary staff member today.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Well, so it's been a while. I guess we should just kind of break down a few things. Obviously, this is a little more laid back setting. We're over here at the backyard right now, and I'm really excited about it. I love this place.
Which, by the way, that's why one of the reasons why we haven't been able to do a podcast, because we've been here, but not doing a podcast.
Right.
We've been building and
we've been
painting.
building this place, and I'm pumped with how it turned out and stuff. I love this place. It's a great hangout place, and so I'm excited to do this over here, at least for now, and we'll see where we wind up in the grand scheme of things. But it's been a little while since we've done a podcast.
Has it been 2 years?
It's been 2 years.
That's crazy.
Yeah, 2 years.
Yeah,
was
Brother
it December of 2020?
Yeah, Brother Gary's retired twice since we've
he is
last done
twice.
the podcast. We started the whole podcast around his retirement for the intent of letting that kind of kick things off and then getting into the swing of things. And we just had so many, just life kind of happened. Ministry happened, other things happened. And hopefully this time is going to kind of...
Well, too, I mean, me and you both have our own things going on with youth and kids, and having somebody to kind of run it on their own is what it needs to begin with. So
well, it does, and we ran into a lot of just different life things and ministry things that kind of kept us from being able to do this and shoot it and set up and edit it and all that kind of stuff. And it's been, man, I don't know that, Seth, if it's been a full year or not since you came and kind of shared your heart with me. We went and ate lunch one day, and I remember you kind of talking to me. You said that you would love to start a podcast back up, and all the different things that we kind of discussed we're going to talk about today. So it's been a little while since we did that, but really excited that you came and shared your heart with me, and that you wanted to do this again and kind of see it happen. And maybe here in a little bit you can kind of share kind of what your heart is behind it, or what your whole intent is. But what we were thinking with today's episode, and maybe Colby could speak to this a little more, was this kind of being a handing of the torch kind of thing.
Even though there was not really a torch to begin with,
right.
but it was like a little
contrary
lighter.
to popular belief, you guys do work other days besides Sunday.
That is true.
So
that is true.
Most
you don't have a lot of time to do this kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, and people don't understand how much time and effort goes into even just a simple 20, 25-minute episode like this, the planning on what you talk about, it took us 2 days just to get this room set up, which maybe is a testament to us just being slow, not knowing what we're doing.
Right, I think once we kind of get our space across the street set up like we like it and stuff, that it'd be pretty easy to kind of stay that way. But we're hoping to maybe kind of roll into like some of our former video announcements that we did prior to church and stuff, roll those into an episode like this and stuff, and have different sponsors and stuff for the podcast, or even commercials and different stuff like that. So there's a lot of really cool ideas that Seth's kind of talked about that I think are really going to be great. So
so apparently you guys had a lunch and I wasn't invited to. It really hurts my feelings.
We thought we texted you, but
no.
Did you not get the text?
No, I didn't get the text.
Sorry.
Anybody who knows me knows I'm all about lunch. So
you're probably already eating something.
Yeah, we actually just got back from lunch. I might burp a couple times, but that's okay. Obviously I know what kind of the goal is for the podcast, but what are some of the things you guys talked about when y'all met up and first started kind of thinking about, okay, where do we go from here? We had this podcast that we did with Brother Gary. It went good. We want to continue it. We want to do something along the same lines, but also add some stuff. And we need somebody to lead it, which Seth has expressed interest in that.
Right.
And so
with as much as on our plate and stuff,
yeah.
Thankfully you kind of reached out and said this is something you feel like God's laid on your heart. So
yeah.
why don't you explain to Colby, the people that are watching, kind of what that thought process was for you, or what caused you to even think like this is something I want to do?
Yeah, absolutely. So back in September of 2021, I moved home from Dallas, which I was down there about 2 years. I graduated college and moved down there to work for a nonprofit that Glenn Beck started called Mercury One. And I was going to work with history and, modern politics and kind of tying the two together. Yeah. Our history is important, and if we don't know our history, we can't go forward. And after a few months down there, I got asked to step in to be the director of the education department. Cool. And Glenn had this vision to start a museum, like a virtual reality museum, where you could go in and like interact with George Washington, with people from the Mayflower, with people in pop culture. And so he started to build this artifact collection. And it's one of the largest privately held collections in the country. And so he could actually tell the stories of our past and have factual evidence. So I was in charge of buying all that. The really cool stuff, the side of it that was really cool was starting to secure funds for the building. And we started to plan it out. I got to work with a Disney Imagineer on the plans and things like that. So to see someone with that style of creativity was really, really impressive.
Yeah, because it wasn't just historical stuff. It was like pop culture kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You gave us a tour when we came down there. They had like Willy Wonka stuff from the
Gene Wilder originals and Vader's original mask.
Very cool stuff.
All that kind of stuff, back to locks of George Washington's hair, or Bibles that came over on the Mayflower.
Wow.
Original copies of the Declaration of Independence. And so I got to add a lot of knowledge to my portfolio about our history, about where we came from, and how our nation was founded on Christianity. And our founders believed in a Judeo-Christian upbringing, and how our country should be grounded in that. And so I got that really cool opportunity. And as soon as I graduated, I went down there to start working for them, which was kind of a culture shock. Growing up in Van Buren, Arkansas, going to Dallas, Texas, one of the largest metropolitan areas and in the country. It was a little bit of a culture shock.
Oh, sure.
21 years here and moving down there knowing no one. And so I was there about 2 years, and some things started to happen. And looking back now, I can definitely see that was God shutting some doors. Didn't really recognize it at the time. I think I was kind of fighting it. This is a really cool opportunity. Why would I walk away from it?
Yeah.
And just a few months ago, I finished up a book, or reread a book by Charles Dickens called Great Expectations. I don't know if you guys have read it.
Sure.
I had to read it in high school, but maybe I might have skimmed it just a little
Cliff
bit.
Notes. Or
Spark Notes.
Like, I remember the title.
Yeah. Spark Notes was very helpful in passing the test, but I read it just a couple months ago, and it really resonated with me. Just a quick synopsis: this boy has this opportunity to get out of his small town and go to a really big city in England. And he's got all these great expectations, literally the title of it. And as he starts to see things and see how the world works, and he was naive growing up, he was innocent, and he comes into the world as an adult, his own person. He starts to see how things work, and that smoke screen kind of lifts away from him, and he realizes, I can make all the plans in the world, I can have all these dreams, and at the end of the day, I can still be passionate about something, but it may not be for me. And so God started to reveal to me that, hey, you may have planned your life out and thought you knew what you wanted to do and what you were going to do, but that's not the direction I had for you to go. And so if you'll listen to me and come back and kind of just come back home and reset and figure out what I have for you, it's going to be better than anything that you could plan. And a verse that I memorized during that time was that, I think it's in 1 Corinthians 2 says that no eye has seen, nor ear heard, nor the heart of man imagined what God has prepared for those that love him and that are called according to his purpose. And so when I really leaned into that, I thought, okay, I've got to be obedient. I'm going to move home. I've got the life made down here. Yeah. I've got all the connections in the world. I've met some of the coolest people. I get to do the coolest things for work. I'm rolling around R2-D2 and showing people, the shoes from the Wizard of Oz. That's my job. Yeah. And to leave that was a little bit surreal, but I knew that I was in the center of God's will. So fast forward back to our lunch. I gained a lot of knowledge down there. I learned how to really connect with people and put myself out there. I actually started a podcast for the nonprofit, for Mercury One, and really learned how to connect with people across the table and kind of draw things out that people might want to hear about, or that they could be educated on, that I might have access to. Not that I know everything or know more than anyone else, but I have access to these things or have the platform to reach people.
Yeah. Well, it's cool for you to be able to sit down with somebody and glean something from them that not everybody might get the chance to, but through a podcast, everybody gets to hear those thoughts or what got a person to where they are today.
Exactly, yeah.
I think that's kind of maybe some of the heart for this podcast.
Absolutely, yeah. So, you can go to a Sunday service and you can get, what we call like our bread for the week, our spiritual bread, our spiritual meal, and go back on a Wednesday night. But to sit in your car and go to work, coming home from work, sitting and watching something on YouTube and really gleaning from that every single day. You have an opportunity to hear from leaders in the church. You have opportunities to hear from people that were raised in the church or that have leaned into God in their faith. And, hey, what can I take away from their faith, their walk with God, and apply it to my life?
Yeah, and that's what we've been talking about as a church staff, is taking home, like, it's not just about coming to church on Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night. Like, you got to have that home discipleship. You can't just eat once a week, 2 times a week and be healthy physically. And I'm a testament to that. Okay. It's the same thing with spiritual stuff. You got to have stuff throughout the week. And I think it's cool that Seth, and even just the time period that we're in, that we're able to have the technology to do that, like throughout the week through something like a podcast,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. It's just wild to think about, because after thinking back to this lunch conversation that we had that day, and these conversations that I had actually forgot about till you just mentioned that, and now to see the conversations that we've been having as a staff, that we even had just this morning with Pastor, talking about it being something that is taken home and being in your first space with your family, and men leading or moms leading, single moms leading, or whatever, leading their children, leading their families into this conversation with God and into this deeper commitment with Him. It's just really interesting to see that it's like, man, this was a God thing that God laid on your heart, because that was the whole idea of this whole thing, was to be something beyond the walls of our church.
Right. Well, and you see in the Bible, actually, God created the family before He created the church. And Pastor talks about it almost every week, how, if you're not getting fed in your home, if you're not feeding your family and being the leader of your house, the mom or the dad, it's not going to work in the church building. And so it's got to start there. So I really think that's key. And one thing that I was thinking about before we started recording was, we live in a world today that, we live with 21st century technology. Yeah. If you even think back 10 or 15 years ago, the things that we have the capability to do today would have blown our minds 10 years ago. Yeah. And so to be able to connect with someone across the world within seconds is just mind-blowing. Yeah. And to think that, okay, we can reach our church family, but think about the people across the world that might be scrolling through YouTube or scrolling through Spotify, and the Lord let them hit play on a certain podcast that we record is just amazing.
And that's actually happened at our church with some of our church members came from California just because they scrolled through on YouTube and found us. So, but if that happens, that's great. But at the same time, like our focus is, and Seth's focus with this is, at home discipleship learning, and helping bring that family unit together, and hopefully the listeners will gain that from this, gain something that will help them in their personal walk with God, and with like you said, leading a family.
Yeah. Well, our job as a church is, at least as a staff, if nothing else, is to help equip people and facilitate these ways that people can dive into their relationship with God deeper and deeper. And we hope this is just another tool that people can use to do that very thing. Whether it's a leadership thing, episode where you're interviewing somebody that's got a business and they ran a Christian business for so many years. Like, how'd you do that and keep your standards and different things like that? Like, I'm so interested in hearing, from different leaders in our church and business owners and stuff from that front. So it's cool to see the different possibilities that are out there that people can apply to their just personal lives.
And speaking of possibilities, the podcast isn't really it's the main thing, but there's other stuff that I think you used the word supplement earlier that will supplement the podcast. If you want to share maybe some of your other ideas about that.
Yeah. So, I said while I was in Dallas that I gained the ability, to speak on a microphone, which if anybody knows me, I'm not a public speaker. I don't like to be in front of a camera, anything like that. But, I think during my time there, the Lord taught me things and really helped me to gain tools and put them in my tool belt for things that I don't even know about yet in my future. But one thing that the Lord convicted me about before I came to have lunch with you, Cody, was I was reading in Matthew, and Jesus was telling the parable of the master that left the talents with his employees. And you see 3 different employees. He leaves, 5 bags of talents to one employee, 3 to another, and 2 to the next, or 2 to one and 1 to the next. And so while he's gone, the first employee takes the 5 bags and goes and invests and doubles his money. What he was given, he worked hard with and multiplied. And the same thing with the one with 2 bags. He multiplied the 2 bags and made it 4. And then we see the one that only had 1 bag. He was scared to lose what he had, and so he buried it in the ground. And when the master came back, he was pleased with the one that had taken the gifts he had given him and multiplied it and sown it among his community, the people around him. And he looked at the guy that had buried his and the talents he had given him, and he said, "What in the world are you doing? I gave this to you to multiply it for your use, for the people around you, to bless others." And I mean, that's the whole purpose of the church. And so speaking for myself personally, the Lord's given me the ability to do a few different things. I've learned that I love to write, which I definitely didn't in school. I wish I would have now, looking back. But I love to write and express my thoughts that way. Sometimes I can get, my thoughts can get tangled up in my head trying to get them out when I'm just sitting and having a conversation with someone. But if I can put pen to paper, they come out, pretty clearly. And so one of my thoughts was to have a blog on our website, to where you could go onto our website, onto social media, and post it on Facebook, Instagram, and you look at one of Pastor's sermon series, and we take that and we break down one of the books of the Bible. When he spoke about Jeremiah and how Jeremiah went to the potter's house, we take that and make it a 10 or 12 day study, and you break it down to where you can look at the scripture, look at Pastor's heart behind his message, which runs about an hour, but you can take that and draw it into 9 or 10 days of devotion, of spiritual food for someone, to where they're not just dependent on a Sunday. They can, on a Monday night when they're feeling down from the first day of the week, or a Thursday night after coming home and having a rough day at work, they can read what Pastor spoke, what the Bible has to say, and be uplifted through a blog, through a podcast, maybe through an email devotional each morning that hits your inbox. Just a quick, hey, here's a verse, here's a prayer to say, dwell on this today.
Yeah, man, I love that. And I definitely relate with you on the whole writing thing. Sometimes it's easier for me to think things through in like an email or something than over the phone, or definitely during meet and greet. I mess up so often during meet and greet. But I get that, and I think that's so great. And that's what God did with people. He inspired people to write the Word of God, and spoke to them through that way. And so I think it's going to be great. I love the ideas that we've talked about and some different ways that we can wind up just sprinkling things throughout your week or throughout your day that you have the opportunity to, subscribe to or not, but it's out there. And if you want it and you need it, it's great. It's a great way to do it.
Everybody needs to, help every now and then. And some people may not, using the Jeremiah example, if pastor or whoever speaks is to speak on Jeremiah, some, for lack of a better term, baby Christians may not know how to take that a step further. And this is something that could potentially help. And sometimes even people like, us that have been around it our whole lives, sometimes we just need a little boost, sometimes. Yeah. So I'm really excited to see what the blog and the emails is about. What are those going to be in relation? Are they going to go along with? So if pastor preaches about Jeremiah, use the Jeremiah example, is there going to be a podcast and an email about Jeremiah, or what are your thoughts on just how those are going to work together?
So I'd really like to sit down with the leadership of the church one by one, kind of get you guys' hearts behind your ministry. I mean, you lead youth and kids, two of the most pivotal ages in the church. We have Pastor Zach with the music and obviously Pastor Britt leading the church, but I'd like to sit down and okay, what's your heart behind your ministry? How did God call you to the ministry? How do you walk that out every day, even when you're discouraged, even when you want to quit? And then maybe take a look at some of the people in the church that have, like Cody mentioned, that has a Christian-owned business and the struggles they've encountered with the community and, the backlash they've maybe have faced with standing for what they believe in, or just someone that was raised in the church or that came to know God within the last couple years and the victories they've had. Someone that's, Brother Robert Burris, who's been in the church his entire life and the battles that he's seen and the things that God's done for the church, for him personally. And then kind of get into a cycle of, okay, if pastor starts a series, let's coincide it where it's all flowing together, where, the emails every single morning, your daily devotional lines up with his scripture from his sermons, the curriculum that we post online adds up. And during his 3-week series on whatever he starts, it's a week or 2 long series that you can read and follow along daily.
Yeah, he's we just talked this morning. He's looking at starting a series on Sunday nights about the gifts of the Spirit that I'm really looking forward to. Awesome. And I think that would be a great opportunity to kind of just follow up on that series and hit some of those really key things that maybe you can't cover in an hour during a service, but would wind up really paying off in the long run throughout the week and stuff. So,
absolutely. Yeah. Awesome. You hear the fruits of the Spirit, and even if you're a new Christian, you've probably heard them, but growing up, it's okay, you list them off and it's okay, how do I apply this to my life? Right. So I think that's what the curriculum, the blog on the website, will help us do. We'll, how do I apply this to my life and have a daily relationship with God and the people around me. And I think the thing that the church is doing right today that God's kind of leading us into as a whole, VBFA included, is it's not just a Sunday and a Wednesday thing. It's a daily thing where you find community around you. You find the people around you that can help you through the tough times, and you all lean on the Word of God. You study it, you know it deeper, and then you come back for more. You bring your friends with you. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, I love that, man. I'm really excited about what's to come and some of the different things. I would say maybe we need to have in the comments or maybe in the description or something some ways that people could get to some of this stuff. Hopefully we can have a few of these things ready by the time the first episode goes live. If not by the first one, definitely by the second one, where you could. We'll figure out a way that you can get a link to sign up for an email subscription, and where you can find the blog on our website and all that kind of stuff. So I've loved this. I've loved talking about this, and
it's good to see it actually happen, because we've been. I know we've mentioned that it's been 2 years, but we've talked about it literally on and off, especially the past few months.
Yeah.
Right.
Like just, man, like we got to do this. And then, you know, I mean, just life.
Yeah,
but
just life happens.
but man, it's so good to finally get to be here with Seth. I know, and you know, Seth's got his own job, his own full-time job, and I think it's awesome that just taking that, even though you're already busy, but you feel like God wanted you to do something, and just the obedience that you talked about. That's a whole lesson that a lot of people in our church, in our community, in our, you know, anywhere can take a lesson from, is just, hey, if you feel like God's wanting you to do something, just do it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, exactly.
So,
you saw what you could do, what you could contribute, how God could use you, and you're pursuing that. And I love that. And I think God has that for everybody. And whatever walk of life or wherever you are, mom, dad, you know, young adult, whatever it is, God's got something for you to use as well. So we encourage you to do that today, and be on the lookout for the next episode. And I don't know if we've really decided if we're maybe every couple weeks or something, a new episode will drop, maybe bi-monthly or something like that. But we just want to thank Seth today for being here and for your heart and everything, and being faithful to our church all these years. And we're glad you're back home. It's exciting for you to be at Dallas and stuff, but we missed you being down there. So we're glad you're back and excited what's to come. So
yeah, I'm really excited about it. I'm really appreciative that you guys have entrusted me with this. It's a really big deal, and I'm excited to see where it goes. I think it's going to produce a lot of fruit for the church, and we're going to see some really, really good growth.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Colby, you want to sign us off?
Hey, this is Colby signing us off.